Pott's disease, tuberculosis of the spine, is a destructive, insidious infection that originates deep within the body's complex vascular architecture. It is a secondary infection, with the mycobacterium typically arriving from primary foci in the lungs or the lymphatic system. The bacteria disseminate via the bloodstream, frequently utilizing Batson's plexus. This paravertebral network of veins communicates freely with the abdominal visceral plexus, allowing pathogens to bypass normal filtration mechanisms. Spinal infections follow an embryonic blueprint. Developing segments form from paired tissue masses called sclerotomes. The lower half of one vertebra, the upper half of the next, and the intervening disc fuse into a single functional unit, sharing a contiguous arterial blood supply. This shared vascular architecture creates a funnel for infection, making the paradiscal region the primary target for hematogenous mycobacterial seeding. These early foundational embryonic structures ultimately define the specific, critical vulnerabilities hidden deep within the mature adult spinal column. 4 vertebral tuberculosis patterns emerge: paradiscal, central, anterior, and posterior. The frequent paradiscal lesion bridges 2 vertebral bodies and the disc. Central lesions deteriorate a single vertebra, sparing the disc. Anterior lesions track under the longitudinal ligament, while posterior lesions affect the pedicles and laminae. The site of initial bacterial lodgement dictates the subsequent pattern of structural failure. Once established, granulomatous inflammation begins eroding the contiguous bony margins of the affected vertebrae. This inflammation targets the vertebral end plates, compromising the microvascular supply. The avascular disc relies on diffusion from these plates. Blocked from this nutrition, the disc starves, leading to rapid morphological degradation and complete structural destruction. As the internal trabeculae of the vertebral body weaken, the spine loses its integrity, making a structural collapse inevitable. Collapse shape is determined by regional biomechanics. The cervical and lumbar regions curve inward, while the dorsal spine curves outward. Here, the weight-bearing line passes anteriorly, compressing the weakened bone into a wedge shape, creating a prominent gibbus deformity. Spinal deformity in Pott's disease follows a specific logic, driven by the intersection of regional load-bearing vectors. As the bone and disc undergo destruction, the body produces a cold abscess. This collection lacks the heat, redness, or rapid swelling typical of acute pyogenic infections. Rather than standard purulent fluid, it contains a mixture of tubercular cellular debris and necrotic caseous material. The absence of an acute inflammatory response allows this material to accumulate and dissect through surrounding tissues extensively and without warning. The abscess follows anatomical tracks, anteriorly into the prevertebral space, laterally along musculofascial planes, or backward into the spinal canal. This silent progression defines the early clinical symptoms, which begin as a dull, diffuse ache before sharpening into localized radicular pain as nerve roots are compressed. In response to the structural threat, the paraspinal muscles enter a continuous spasm to prevent movement, manifesting as profound clinical stiffness. Because there are no classic inflammatory signs to alert the patient, the disease can progress unhindered until catastrophic structural or neurological failure occurs. Investigating this progression requires precise imaging. Anterior, posterior, and lateral plane X-rays serve as the first-line tools for localizing vertebral damage. This structural comparison reveals the first detectable radiological marker of paradiscal tuberculosis. Evaluation focuses on the intervertebral disc space. By measuring and comparing the suspected disc height with the healthy discs above and below it, a distinct reduction becomes visible. This metric separates tuberculosis from secondary spinal metastases. In malignancy, the bone is destroyed, but the disc space remains preserved. In tuberculosis, vascular starvation causes the disc to collapse first. X-rays also show soft tissue shadows. A bird nest shadow indicates an elongated abscess, while a globular shadow, where width exceeds length, indicates high pressure and a significant risk of paraplegia. Plain films and CT scans provide detail on bone destruction, but they are limited when evaluating the exact threat to the spinal cord or assessing spinal tumor syndrome. MRI is the definitive investigation for these cases. It maps the extent of cord compression and the condition of neural tissues, allowing for a more accurate neurological prognosis. Diagnosis relies on the practitioner's ability to differentiate the vascularly driven disc starvation of tuberculosis from the isolated bony destruction of malignancy. Intervention prioritizes two goals: achieving complete healing of the granulomatous disease and preventing neurological compression. Targeted anti-tubercular chemotherapy is the cornerstone of modern treatment, resolving the majority of cases and causing small abscesses to subside. If a superficial cold abscess requires aspiration, it is performed with a thick needle using an anti-gravity insertion. The needle tracks the zigzag musculofascial plane to prevent chronic sinus tracts from forming. During the acute phase, mobilization is guarded. Orthoses like the Aish brace are utilized to support the healing spine and prevent further pathological dislocation. Historical management was characterized by months of aggressive immobilization in plaster casts and routine surgical debridement of the bone. Landmark trials from the Medical Research Council eventually demonstrated that prolonged bed rest and routine surgery offer no superior benefit over comprehensive chemotherapy. The management of spinal tuberculosis has shifted toward targeted medical therapy and precise biomechanical support, prioritizing pharmaceutical intervention over the surgical practices of the past.